Hey, Storm fans, welcome to episode 3 of the Let's Go Storm podcast of the 23-24 season. We're a bit like buses. You don't see us for ages, and now we're doing 2 in a week. So, lucky you guys. As usual, I'm with Rish and Mike, and we've also got a special guest on today, MVP from Saturday's semi final, Darien Nelson-Henry. Welcome, Darien.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be on here and discuss a little bit more, a little bit to do with Hemel Storm basketball.
Great to have
Awesome.
you on. So
Yeah,
yeah,
welcome.
we're going to do our normal format. We're going to get to know Darien a bit more, both from his basketball journey and from a personal point of view. We're then going to talk about Storm and his time at Storm, plus then a preview of Sunday's big final against Reading Rockets. So Darien, can you tell us a bit about how you started playing basketball? How old were you? Who influenced you to start playing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess we'll start off with a fun fact. My mom was my first coach when I was 5 years old.
Nice.
Yeah, Boys and Girls Club. I think we were the Purple People Eaters. I think everyone had you're just given a t-shirt with different colors, and ours were purple, so naturally that was the progression.
Okay.
Um, my mom did play a pretty decent high level of basketball. She played in the US. She played Division I college basketball, starting at University of Montana, and then eventually transferred to a lower league. But she was definitely the basketball inspiration, but come from a family of athletes. My dad played professional baseball as well. So that was a love of my life for quite a while too, until I just kept growing and my strike zone got too big. Sorry for any British people. I don't know how that relates to wickets and all that, but yeah, basically, yeah, chose the basketball path. Played just about all sports up until 15, but narrowed it down to basketball then. Stayed in public school my uh, whole upbringing. Was happy and delighted to take my high school to the furthest state finish in school history, and I did it with my best friends. So I think that's another reason why basketball is so special to me. It builds lifetime friendships, and it allows you to connect with your community in a way that otherwise you may not have that opportunity. So that's kind of the impetus for continuing to do as much community work as I possibly can while I'm playing, and why I love the fans so much, and everything that goes behind the scenes of clubs. I played AAU basketball for Friends of Hoops, and that's where I started getting on the scene and getting noticed by various universities in the US. Was recruited pretty highly through the West Coast and some Middle America, but once the Ivy League offers started rolling in, I kind of saw how I could pair academics with athletics in a sense, and I used a decent GPA, but even better basketball skills to get into university I had no business being in, academically at least. And yeah, so I played at University of Pennsylvania for 4 years. Wound up captaining my junior and senior years there. Really enjoyed it. Philadelphia is an amazing sports city, crazy fans, and a lot of history, rich history in the Penn basketball program specifically. But it was a good combination. We were able to play Ivy League, obviously, separately. The out of conference schedule was also pretty intense as well, because they're part of something called the Big Five, which is the original five basketball schools of Philadelphia. That would be us at Penn, Temple, St. Joe's, LaSalle, and Villanova. So I was lucky enough to get beat up on by the championship winning Villanova teams under Jay Wright's tutelage for a couple seasons there. And yeah, I was exposed to, a lot of great basketball on the East Coast, bit of a culture shift, and then yeah, wound up going overseas following that, and yeah, obviously now I'm here.
One
That's
thing
amazing.
we're always in awe of in the UK is the number of people that come and watch like college basketball. Were you playing in
Mhm.
front of like fairly substantial crowds?
Yeah, no, totally. So, our arena actually, well, I forgot to mention, is like a classic. I think it's like one of the top five oldest venues in the U.S. So before I got out, I'm from Seattle, Washington, which is basically Canada, Pacific Northwest. And when I got to Philadelphia, everyone kept asking me, how does it feel to play in the Palestra? How does it feel to play in the Palestra? I was like, yeah, it's just another gym. I think it holds about 10,000, 9,500 people, just another gym. And everyone kept asking that. And eventually I looked into the history of it, and I think it's from 1920 something and still has the
Wow.
awesome old exterior. There's so many names have gone through there. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Carmelo Anthony, like Wilt Chamberlain played there. A
Wow.
lot of like a lot of rich basketball history in the Palestra, and it was a great place to play. Absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, on top of that, played at a bunch of historic venues across the country. Played at Butler, which is another one of the top five, Cameron, Duke Stadium. So like all those are like pretty big. I think the only one I missed out on was University of Indiana. Or sorry, Indiana University. I don't know. U of I. Yeah, Hoosiers. Anyways, maybe you guys know it, maybe you don't. I don't know, but that's another pretty classic one that unfortunately I wasn't blessed to play in. But yeah, pretty regular, multi-thousands crowd on a packed night. If we were playing Princeton or Villanova or one of those big schools, we'd be seeing about 9,000 people on a given night.
Wow. How's that feel as a young lad learning the game, playing in front of that many people? Is it nerve-wracking at the time, or is it just fearless because of this? Yeah, just go out there and do it.
Yeah, it's a bit of both. Obviously, the more you do it, the more used to it you get. But definitely in the early stages of those Big Five games that are packed houses, because what they would do is like the Palestra was the traditional venue for all of the Big Five games. So they would pack it as a double header. So it would be like Temple, LaSalle, and then the next game right after it would be like us versus Villanova. So there's fans from
Wow.
all across different Philadelphia universities that are watching. And what they do is at the opening tip, whichever team like wins the tip, you just you let it go out of bounds, or like you don't let you tip it really hard, and so that the play stops, and then they'll throw like those streamers on the court, and then it's like 15 minutes of picking up streamers while everyone's cooling down from like an hour-long warm-up, and it's this whole fanfare. But it's really cool. It's really nice tradition. And once you've seen a couple of those and you've shot some free throws, in front of, these people are screaming with cutouts of your head, eventually you learn to just kind of shut that stuff off and do what you've been training for your whole life.
Is that a hint that
Love
you'd
that.
like us to bring cutouts to your head on Sunday?
Yeah, actually, my wife still has some left over from my Riders days, so she'll bring her two, and you guys can she'll hold on to one, but it can be a dogfight for the other one, I guess.
And
We need to see if we can get some more of them printed.
yeah, definitely. Did you think about it when you were like, I've just dunked it in the same like basket as LeBron James or Kevin Durant or Wilt Chamberlain? Did that ever come into your like, I can't believe I've done that type
I
thought
mean,
process?
at the time, you don't really think about it because you're hoping that you can also elevate yourself to a recognizable platform. Everyone's chasing that dream. I think it's more of one of those hindsight things when you look back and you can say it. At the time, you're like, I was playing against NBA guys during the summer all the time. They would come through to our gym because we had good pickup runs. And so you're playing against these guys, you're like, oh, these guys aren't all that. And then you play against them for real, and then maybe they are all that. And there's a reason why they're here and I'm down here. But no, it is a special moment looking back on it. And it's something, honestly, I wish I would have valued and treasured more at the time, but maybe a little bit of arrogance and I don't know, not overthinking it probably plays a role in being able to execute as well.
Yeah, there's got to be a bit of just being in the moment, right? And then looking back at it. I think in the UK, I've been to some classic sports venues and in a few other countries as well, like the original Wembley Stadium and stuff. And when you know the history of that place, they kind of have a certain vibe to them, a feeling of
Totally.
all of those things that have happened. That they're just so sort of stuck in your memory, right? So I guess those sorts of venues you were playing in had that.
Yeah. If you let it get to you and you start overthinking it, it may do you in. So you kind of just you appreciate it in the moment, and you make a mental note to like reflect on it somewhere down the line, but at the time you're just focusing on what's in front of you. You know, I remember walking. I was lucky enough to play in 2 finals in the O2 down here in London with Riders, and you're walking out of the changing rooms and you're seeing all these signed posters from, you know, Rolling Stones and, you know, Florence and the Machine and Tame Impala and like all these like multi-platinum artists or whatever, and like you're saying, wow, I'm really about to perform in the same venue as, you know, some of these massive names. I don't know why those are the 3 artists I chose. Don't judge me. Don't judge me for that. Don't judge me. But you kind of take it with a grain of salt while you're there, and then when you look back on it, it's a fun story. You know, you can tell your friends and your kids and your family or whoever.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So then after college, you then went to play in Europe for 4 teams that none of us are going to try and pronounce. Hopefully you can tell us what they say. But yeah, what made you go from college basketball out to play in Europe?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a bit of a complex story, but basically the rules have changed now with all the NIL stuff and agents representing you and how that's allowed to look. But back in the day when I'm no, but you weren't allowed to sign with an agent while you were still an active NCAA member. You weren't allowed to, you know, take any money or use your likeness or do any of that kind of stuff. So basically the second you finish your last NCAA game, it's just an onslaught of agents who are pushing and pulling you in various directions. Which is, I mean, it's a good thing. I'm blessed to have that opportunity. There's a lot of people who maybe didn't have agents reaching out to them when they finished their careers collegiately. I was lucky enough to have a lot of different options, and you know, some will try and guide you down the NBA path, some will try and guide you down the Europe path. And I settled somewhere in the middle. I had an agent who, you know, said he could get me a couple of G League workouts and probably couldn't get me like into any combine-ish stuff, but could at least get me some workouts. But then he said, you know, what do you want? What have you looked forward to? And I always wanted to at least explore and work out and give it a shot in Europe. And he's like, that's probably a better bet financially, because if you are able to prove yourself in the first couple of years in Europe, you can actually wind up getting some pretty solid contracts, because two-way contracts weren't a thing either back when I graduated. So it's either your G League or your NBA. There's no real in between. So I chose the European route, and I thought if I proved myself over here, then I'd be able to get back to the NBA eventually. Obviously that did not happen, but I don't hold a grudge, or I'm not upset about the pathway whatsoever, because otherwise I wouldn't be where I am, and I'm very satisfied with the way that my life's panned out. But yeah, so my first year went to Poland. Szarka Tornobrzeg, it's a small club who has now been relegated, I believe, to the second or even third league of Poland. Crazy situation. The GM was also the head coach, was also like the club's main sponsor, zero checks and balances. And it was a bit of a crazy place. Was there for I want to say 3 to 4 months, probably, including preseason. Already getting checks late, wasn't getting them at all at some points. And then I get told that they're bringing in another center to compete with me for minutes. And I'm thinking, hold on, I haven't got the last 2 months of pay. How are you going to bring in another guy? What are you going to pay him? You can't even pay me. So I kind of told my agent, you know, look for alternatives. And he was able to find me a gig in Austria for pretty much the same pay and for a better team, better quality of life, I suppose, in a main Austrian city versus a countryside Polish town. The Polish league is good, don't get me wrong. If you're in the top 5 to 8 teams, they pay really well. They are really well run. But if you're in that bottom margin, it's pretty poorly run. And I got some stories about that. I don't know how bored you guys want to get, but I could go down some rabbit holes. Basically, when I got to Austria, I don't know how much you guys know about Austrians, but they're very robotic, very bureaucratic, very by the books. So the first thing they do is take me to the visa office to to, get my Polish visa transferred into a Austrian visa. Keep in mind, this is my rookie year, so I'm not checking with any of the Polish, higher ups. I say I'm not checking with my Polish coach if I have a visa or anything. So I get to Austria, and they're like, okay, like hand us your paperwork. I don't have anything. Let me call my old team, and then I call them. No papers, no papers. Shh, no papers. Like they only had my
Wow.
contract. I was like, I have a copy of my contract. I don't need that. I need like my visa paperwork. I need my insurance, all of that. Didn't have any of it. Never registered me whatsoever.
Wow.
And I'm at that point over the 90-day tourist visa, so I'm in the EU illegally. And basically, the club in Austria was like, well, we can't sign you up because you're here illegally. You have to go back to the US and wait for 6 weeks while your visa resets. And in that time, they lose a handful of games. They're out of playoff contention. And luckily enough, I made enough of a impact while I was there practicing with them for 10 days. They wanted to bring me back for the following season. So I had that to rest on, but here I am back in the US in January with, half a season left to play and no clubs that want to pick me up because I've been cut as a rookie. Luckily
Wow.
I signed in, I want to say like February or March with that Austrian team and wound up going back there the next season. But yeah, to sum up the story though, I called the other Americans. By the way, they went through 7 Americans that year. Only one stayed the entire year. The other ones got out as well, luckily. And I called them and I was like, hey guys, like, just in case you think that there might be something sketchy going on, I'm pretty sure there is. So just be careful, make sure you guys are taken care of, check with your agents. And they're like, yeah, we actually just got back from Ukraine. And I'm like, why? And like they drove to the border, parked the car on the Polish side, walked up to some guard like on the border, like slipped him some dough on the side, and the guy changed the little wheel on his stamp and switched the dates and basically said that they went into Poland and came back in so that their 90-day tourist visa could reset.
Wow.
So they were just recycling 90-day visa, like 90-day tourist visas with no insurance, no help, like no nothing, just yeah, sketchy
Wow.
situation, super crazy.
Sounds
You
like a
should-
lucky
Welcome to pro
escape.
basketball, eh?
Yeah.
It sounds like you shouldn't be talking to us. You should be on some Netflix documentary rather than
Yeah.
spending some time with us this evening.
Yeah, honestly, man, the stories I could tell are infinite. But I will say it was a crazy situation. I have more. The Polish experience was probably was the most fruitful in terms of craziness that happened. But yeah, I could go on for days. And then yeah, so first year in Austria, the team's not great. I played a lot though. I played almost 40 minutes a game on my young, fresh legs and averaged great numbers. Was able to then the following season play for the incumbent winner, like champions, Kaufenberg Bulls. We won the treble with them. And it was it's a small mountain village, but the organization was run really, really well. Had some quality Americans who have gone on to great leagues and done really well. And then following that, I went to Bosnia, and the domestic league in Bosnia isn't great, but I don't know if you guys have heard of, it's called the ABA League, which is basically all of the Balkan countries have one super league within it.
Okay.
So the top 1 or 2 teams from Bosnia will be in it, the top 1 or 2 teams from Serbia, from Montenegro, from Slovenia, from Serbia, and they'll all play in this one super league, which is kind of why I decided to play there. I'm sure that any European basketball fans out there know how dominant those countries' prospects are producing in the NBA and across Europe right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic. I mean,
Yeah.
to name the 2 stars, but even the bench guys for a lot of EuroLeague teams are coming out of that neck of the woods and really good basketball minds down there. And I wanted to be exposed to that. Then I got a call from Tyler Bernardini, an ex-Rider, who basically told me that the center at Leicester had to have season-ending surgery. And I knew that he had done his MBA at Loughborough University, and a master's was something that I was pursuing at the time. And the situation with the Bosnian club wasn't all that great. So I decided to make the jump over to the UK. And yeah, I guess the rest is history. Stayed there for 4 seasons, was able to captain the Riders to a couple of titles and also achieve my master's on the side, which was a huge bonus in my eyes. And yeah, so then fake retired, psyched them out, and now here we are, competing for another title to add to the trophy collection.
I think you underestimate yourself there where you say you won a couple of titles. I think you did pretty well at Leicester. Obviously, we all know 4 trophies at Leicester, but BBL Team of the Year twice as well, which is, must have been quite a special moment as well. Is that kind of recognition something that you get on as well as the medals?
Yeah, to me, not so much, to be completely honest with you. I mean, I know that it looks good on a CV and everything, but that's never really what I've been doing it for. It truly, for me, it is the trophies, because that's a culmination of things. That's like good games, bad games, but on top of that, it's being a good teammate, being a solid guy, or just being willing to, do some of the dirty work that maybe isn't recognized by all BBL All-Star 5 or whatever it is. There's a bunch of guys there who also won some trophies who didn't make All-Star 5, but I would put them up there as some of the best teammates I've ever had. And as long as we can get the job done, I'm not super fussed about the titles. Titles meaning the BBL Star 5.
Yeah.
I want the titles, I want the trophies, I want the silverware, but the other stuff is to me it doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, I'm honored and I'm glad that my peers and the coaches and whoever did the voting thought so highly of me, and I'm flattered, but for me, yeah, it's all about the silverware.
How did the BBL differ from some of the other leagues you'd played in? Is it at as high a standard, or is it? I'd imagine some of Eastern Europe was probably quite physical, which suits your game. I'm guessing, being the heighten that you are. But how's the BBL compare to where else you've played as a league?
Yeah, I would say that. So there's like a two-pronged answer. I guess I'll give you there. One, I would say the BBL is a lot faster paced than a lot of like continental European teams. Whether that's due to the higher import allowance. So I know the BBL allows more Americans than a lot of leagues around Europe. So it could be the influence of that. It could be because, there's less of a language barrier. So a lot of, American tactics and American coaches or Canadian coaches, jump back and forth between the BBL. So it could be influenced by that. Or it could just be because, that's the type of athletes and the type of game that, is perpetuated within the league. I couldn't tell you exactly why, but it is a fast-paced league. And that said, it has grown really, really quickly, even since my first season, 2019-20 season to today. I mean, I can see the quality of recruiting, the quality of plays being run, when I first got there, playing Manchester was like, I knew we were winning by 40, and now I don't know, even teams like, Surrey, Plymouth, Manchester, who are still at the bottom of the table, they're not an easy out anymore. You're not just going to walk all over them and beat them by 20 if you're having a bad night and 50 if you're having a good night. You're always got to take everyone seriously in the league, and that's one thing that I'll commend, the British Basketball League for. The median level of play has gone up leaps and bounds since I first got here, and I think it's only going to keep improving. And then on the flip side, I'll compare that to Europe, where it's a lot slower, it's a lot more methodical. I would say intelligent isn't the right word, because I think different play styles requires intelligence in its own right, no matter what it is, but it's a lot more X's and O's, tacticians. We know that this guy's going to be here, so that you got to be there, kind of thing. Whereas, I don't know, I think BBL is a little bit more in the feel, in the flow, making reads, breaking plays because you have an advantage. But some of the countries I played in, even if you had an advantage, you're like, no, this is the objective. This is what we drew this play up for. This is the result we want, as opposed to saying, well, I had an open layup, so I took it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
So you have
Yeah,
to think a bit more on the court here.
absolutely. Yeah, I think here it goes a lot more on the fly. There, it's remembering what was rehearsed and practiced the week before.
Right. And
Yeah.
what about from a atmosphere perspective? Because you played in Super Leagues in, like, the Baltic region, Austria. I'm not sure what their basketball scene's like. Obviously, we know NBL really well, and specifically Hemel Storm, and that feels like it's got great atmosphere. And I've been to a few BBL games. How does that compare BBL wise to what you've seen in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, the atmosphere changes every country you go to. And it's one of those, I know it sounds crazy, but sometimes the smaller cities and the smaller like venues have the most diehard fans, because I don't know if it's because they're just that much more committed, or it's more tight knit, and like that's just what people do in those settings. But there's a town of like 2,000 people in rural Austria called Oberwart, and it is the most insane place to play. Like I ever like, because it maybe seats just over 1,000, maybe like 1,500 people at the most. But the place is rocking. There's like a club, like a nightclub next door to it. So you can hear like the bass thumping, and people are like going between the nightclub and the basketball game. It's like the craziest thing ever. And you know that the whole village is like showing up that day, or from like multiple villages like a couple miles away. And so that's like one of the crazy, they got the drums going, they got everything, flags waving. You can't even see, probably if you're in the middle of the stanchions, you probably can't even see what's going on in the game, kind of thing. And then go down to I played in Macedonia for the ABA League, and they're lighting flares and like throwing them onto the court. They have this moment where before the game, when you're doing the introductions, there's that quiet period, and they kind of turn out the lights in the fan section, and all the fans like disappear out of the crowd and go into the what would you call it, like the concourse. And you just hear like it's like a war party is coming. It's like dun dun, and then you hear like marching, and then dun dun, and then marching, and then all of a sudden people start flooding into the stadium, and flares are getting lit and flags start waving, and you're like, am I going to war? Am I playing a basketball game? I don't know what's happening right now. So there's
awesome.
it's all kinds of different environments that you're going to experience. And then I mean I've played in the Netherlands as well, and everyone's just sitting there all prim and proper. Like if they shout, they're like, oh, sorry, like they got unruly there for a second. So it's like all kinds of different atmospheres, and I've been lucky enough to experience them all. And BBL is really special, or British Basketball League was really special, and Hemel is a really special place as well, where you can feel the immediate like intimate impact from the fans, and that's why I love it.
Awesome.
Basketball is still growing in the UK. I suppose you probably saw that in your 4 years at Leicester, with probably the difference in attendance as you were there and stuff. But it's definitely starting to get bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that I can at least say I was a part of it. I mean, I was 4 years is not like I'm LeBron James, 21-year incumbent or anything, but I got to watch it grow for quite some time, and I'm hoping that it keeps growing, because it is a beautiful sport to play, to watch, to be a fan of, and I think people are just starting to realize how engaging it really is.
Yeah, I think we see like it's really popular. Kids are loving it. It's just about having more places and opportunities to play, right? Isn't it? I think that's the big bit that needs to kind of come now for the juniors. It's just that more opportunities, more courts, more places, slightly different with weather and stuff like that. But
I think it's I remember reading a news article, I think it was published in The Guardian, and they said that basketball is the second most played recreational sport in the UK.
Yeah.
It's just a lack of facilities. It's so hard. Like even when I was just playing rec league down in London, it's so hard to get a court, so hard to get a venue. All the time is slotted off for who knows what, for different stuff. Whereas in the US, you can find a court around any corner, and that just allows you to have so much more exposure, so much more time. If you can just dribble a ball around your neighborhood and shoot on 5 different hoops within a mile radius, naturally you're gonna if you're more exposed to it more, you're going to have more time to develop. Whereas here, if it's such a commodity, it's going to be harder to, increase your level at a rapid pace.
Absolutely. Yeah, I bet the first time you went to train in England and had to wait for a badminton team to finish was a bit of an eye-opening experience.
Yeah. Or in Poland when I went and it was ping pong, and I'm like, this is a basketball court, my friend. Yeah, they love their ping pong in Poland. I don't know why, but they absolutely love it. And then, this was the worst. When we would have handball practicing before us in Austria, and they put this like gummy, like tacky stuff on their hands so that they can grip the ball better.
Yeah.
So, but if they bounce it on the ground, then the tack, it's like almost like tree sap kind of. And when they bounce the ball, it's getting on the court. So, and if you're coming on to play basketball after they've been on the court, the floor is very sticky, but almost too sticky. We do want a sticky court. We don't want to be slipping around, but I also don't want my foot to go down and not come back up when I'm trying to guard somebody shifty. Like, it's
leaving your shoe behind.
Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden, I'm shoeless Joe Jackson.
So, you mentioned your mum earlier as being like your kind of original influence to getting into basketball. Who else do you think's had big influences on your career to date?
Yeah, I've had a couple. So I mean, I don't want to not give my dad credit either. He although he didn't know much about basketball, he was always like a American football, baseball kind of guy. He was also the first one to, say, hey, you want to go get some shots up at the park later today, and stuff like that. So he was always incredibly supportive of my basketball journey. And he was the one who first put me on Tim Duncan. He was like, again, he didn't know much about basketball, but he was like, this guy's 6'11", Mr. Fundamental. And I think it was a Sunday, the Spurs were on, and he was like, you need to watch this guy because if you want to be good, do what he does. And, he didn't know a lot, but he pointed me in the right direction. So like watching Tim Duncan, and he's one of those guys who he's not super loud, he's not super talkative, he's not like running to the press or doing whatever. He's just all about his business, taking care of it, silent but deadly. And that's what I really appreciated about him, just being a good influence on and off the court, especially in an era where the NBA was going through some rocky time with off the court scandals. He's who I tried to focus on. And then in terms of just my basketball development, Jim Marsh, my late AAU coach, was a absolute basketball icon in the Seattle area. He played at UCLA. I'm sorry, he played at USC, and he played against UCLA when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was there. So he got to tell us all these like crazy stories about going up against him. And so that was really cool, and just seeing like what a path following basketball, where it could take you. And so that was pretty awesome. And then once I got into university, I had two very different coaches. So my first 3 years at Penn, I had a coach, Jerome Allen, who's now, I think he's with assistant coach at the Detroit Pistons. When he left Penn, Pistons. He immediately went. Yeah, I think. Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, he originally, I think, went to the Celtics under Brad Stevens, but then Brad Stevens took on more of the managerial role with the Celtics, and I think his kind of tenure there as a coach left. I think he maybe went to the Timberwolves. He's jumped around the NBA a little bit, but always a very quality coach and an inspirational guy. Not a great X's and O's coach, but another kind of Tim Duncan, live your life well, follow the right path, do things well, work hard, that kind of stuff. So he really cemented that in me. And then my senior year, we had a coach named Steve Donahue, who I don't know how much you guys follow college basketball, but he took Cornell, another Ivy League team, to the Sweet 16, which was like pretty much unheard of back in those days, through this really rigid Princeton-style offense that he ran and that he implemented with us at Penn as well. And that was when I really started thinking about basketball in a way more critical and analytical lens. And so that was a phenomenal learning experience as well. He's still there with the Penn guys, and I think he's done a really good job turning the program around. So those were a few. But there's been I'm missing a bunch of them, and if any of them are listening, I'm grateful to all my coaches and mentors, who have showed me along the way. And then the last one I'll just tip my hat to is Rob Paternostro, obviously with Riders. Was under him for 4 years, and it was an absolute joy to play for him. Another New England guy, so I could had some good Philly to Connecticut banter going on, and he's an absolute basketball database. You can be like, oh yeah, I played against this guy like Jimbo Blanket, and he'll just be like, oh, Jimbo Blanket, yeah, he averaged 14 points and 2 rebounds for this obscure Division III college, like in the middle of Kansas, and you're like, yeah, I don't know how you knew that, but
Wow.
so he's like crazy basketball mind, super dedicated to the game, always improving, always getting better, and just a great guy to be around. So he definitely helped shape my take on modern basketball.
I thought you were going to mention him actually.
Yeah. I had to give them the shout out in the end.
Yeah, I say it's right what you say about his knowledge. I've been obviously because we had Aaron Wright. I've been watching a lot more BBL this year than I normally would have, and he seems to be a pundit most weeks. And yeah, his knowledge and his insight in the game is fantastic.
Yeah. Not only is he a absolute basketball geek, but he did a stint with ESPN back in the day. If you ever see him, ask him about it. He gets fired up talking about it because this was before the era of like supercomputers and all these analytics. So he was like the guy, he would find some obscure statistic and he would crawl on his hands and knees underneath where the camera's view of sight was and like hand tickets like up to the broadcasters for them to read off like it was their own original ideas like from under the table. Which is pretty cool. And so
that was around, did he get injured? I think he was injured, wasn't he? And he started doing broadcasting and then came over to Europe and played. So he was
I don't know exactly what the timeline was, but I know that he speaks really fondly of those days, and it was pretty fun to hear about.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you mentioned Tim Duncan. Is there any other would you say he's one of your basketball heroes then? And is there any others that you'd put alongside him?
Yeah, I'd say Tim Duncan's up there. I mean, you kind of just take a little something from everyone that you either play against or you watch. I'd say he was one of my first like real idols. Obviously, Shaquille O'Neal was another guy. Two completely different styles. Tim Duncan's gonna beat you with like 3 different moves, and that's all he has, and that's all he needs. Whereas Shaq is just going to dominate you this, that, and the other way. So, 2 completely different styles, but both equally fun to watch. But just the Spurs in general, actually, when I was younger, was kind of my team. Back when it was like Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, Boris Diaw, Thiago Splitter. They had like a really good like foreign kind of lineup, which was rare at the time. And then obviously they got Kawhi Leonard in there, and it was just really, really fun basketball to watch. I unfortunately had the Seattle Supersonics taken away from me at a young age, which I'm still salty about. Just when they were getting good too. So I got to watch Kevin Durant play in a Sonics uniform at the Key Arena in Seattle, which was amazing. And then right when we had drafted Russell Westbrook, they got taken away from us. So I never got to see Russ in a Sonics jersey, unfortunately. But that generation of Sonics, so like before him, so it was like Sean Kemp, Gary Payton, and then even going back as far as like Jack Sikma and stuff, I got to play with his son, Nate Sikma, in my AAU team. So that was like a good excuse to go into the highlight reel and everything.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
it's pretty sweet.
And outside of basketball, what do you do for work and any other kind of hobbies and stuff?
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm a personal chef, but I really, really enjoy cooking. Not for myself. Like if it's just me on my own, I will cook something simple and something easy. But I like cooking for friends and for my wife. That's something I really enjoy doing. Otherwise, it's hiking, reading, maybe a couple pints down at the pub, and that's that's about it, really. I'm a simple guy. I like nature, food, and socializing. Yeah, that's about it. I do enjoy getting around London, but I think my heart is really set more in the English countryside. That's kind of why I fell in love with England in the first place. We were lucky enough. We had great sponsors at Riders who would hook us up with cars. So every free chance I got, it was my wife Greta and I were tucking off. That's I always say this about Leicester. The best thing about Leicester is that it's close to everywhere else.
Yeah, it's right in the middle. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
No, I do love Leicester. I love the fans. If you guys are listening, don't take that the wrong way, but it is pretty awesome. You know, you're like an hour down to the Cotswolds. You're an hour away from the peaks, maybe 2 hours from Wales, 3 hours from the lakes. Yorkshire, probably about 2 to 3 hours, something like that. So every free chance we got, we were, you know, on a new peak or in a new ravine, just exploring the British countryside and some heritage sites. And yeah, luckily my wife is Austrian, so she doesn't consider anything you guys have around here as mountains. So it's nice leisurely hill strolls.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. I've done a little bit in Scotland, so I've been up to Scotland, a bit of hiking around Glencoe and stuff, and it's
Nice.
That's pretty hilly, I'd say.
Yeah,
But,
that's on
Austria.
the bucket list. I know I've been up to Edinburgh a handful of times, been to Glasgow to watch my buddy Patrick Whelan play up there. But we've been reserving we're trying to do like the Hebrides, like Isle of Skye, all of that. I think they call it, I think it's like the something 500,
The
like
North
the
Coast 500, yeah.
North Coast
Yeah.
500. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're trying to reserve like a 3 week period, maybe sometime in over this summer, or maybe I heard the midges get pretty crazy up there during the summer
Yeah.
months. So maybe like a late fall kind of trip.
That's
up,
perfect timing, actually. Yeah, absolutely. There's actually a
Yeah.
company in this is totally off track from basketball. Company in Hemel that you can hire camper vans.
Oh,
And,
nice.
So if you guys, and I think there's a couple of Storm fans that have been hired a camper van and done the North Coast 500 in a camper van. So takes care of
Unreal.
accommodation as well. So yeah.
All right, Hemel Storm fans, if you are listening to this, please write down any recommendations you have and maybe any discount codes you have for the van service.
I think that'd be a
We'll
good
hook you up.
documentary in there somewhere. 6'11" Darren in a motorhome. Can he fit? Will he
Yeah.
survive the summer?
Yeah. That's my guilty pleasure is when I can't sleep at night, I look at camper vans and canal boats, like narrow boats on my phone for auction, knowing full well I can't fit or operate on any of them, but nonetheless living the dream vicariously through my phone screen.
Excellent.
And then what do you do for a career since you sort of finished playing pro basketball?
Yeah, so I actually went through a recruiter. His name is Angus Gilmore. He's specializes in placing athletes in fast-paced, usually sales, tech sales, or like quick growth startup environments. Which I was lucky enough to be placed at a fast-paced. It's called Jigsaw. It's a legal tech software. Designed to help with diagramming and timeline creation, stuff like that. So I started in a sales role, but my talents were noticed for the adoption and retention specialization, which basically leaves me working with current clients to, you know, make sure that they're trained, happy using the software, find out what we're doing well, what we can improve on, how to optimize, you know, their spend with us, and yeah, basically just working with lawyers all day long. And it's either lawyers on one side or our product support team, who's a bunch of computer engineers on the other side. So a big brainy bunch, and then Darien in the middle to make things work.
Is that kind of long days then, is it? Is it just standard 9 to 5, or are you finding yourself like late in the evenings and stuff doing that?
Yeah, it really does depend. Again, when I started there, I think it was approaching 90 people, maybe 80, 90 employees. And I mean, I've been there since September, so that's going on about 7 months, and we're up to over 150 now. So it's growing,
wow.
growing very rapidly. And with that comes, increased responsibility, increased dedication. So I do pull some late nights sometimes. We do have some clients that are working out of Japan and Australia. So sometimes it's early mornings, sometimes it's late nights if I have to communicate with clients that are whatever 10, 11 hours ahead of us. Which can be long, but ultimately it's a great company that I work for. It's growing quickly. I think at one point, if not still, we're the fastest growing legal tech startup in the world, which is an honor to say and an honor to be a part of. And yeah, it's my first, kind of segue into the corporate world. So don't know how it stacks up against what everyone else is doing, but I can just say that I'm happy that I get to, go into work and attack it like it's a new fresh day every time, and try and grow the company as fast as we can.
I think it's no surprise that there's a lot of businesses that look to the sports world for the right mindset and towards growth. So I think you see a lot of people from sports that do speaking and do a lot of, not necessarily just motivation, but more that idea of first of all team and about focusing on goals and things like that as well, and the work that you do off the court that has an impact on the court as well. So I think that's really massively transferable. So your recruitment guys done a good job to get you into tech startup.
Yeah, he found the right business model. He's like, make all the other people, teach them how to be good employees, and I'll just sell them off to the people who need them. Really, he is a good guy. Angus Gilmore from Athlete Origin, great guy, and placing people in great roles. And honestly, I was pretty lost when I was transitioning out of basketball. I wasn't sure. It's kind of overwhelming when you're just chucked into this new world with no frame of reference, and he did a great job of guiding me. But yeah, basically what he sees in it, and what a lot of companies, as you said, see in athletes, is those soft skills that sometimes you kind of have to wonder if you're just seeing, your everyday Joe on the street. Does he have resilience? Does he have adaptability? Does he have leadership skills, the ability to work within a team, to motivate himself, to motivate others? And that's one thing that you generally don't really have to worry about with athletes, because they've proven, at least if they're successful, that they can do it at a decent level. And so if you can see like a high level of athletics on a resume, that they've at least ticked a couple of boxes, which employers are looking for.
Yeah, definitely. I see a lot of it in the commercial world is athletes, and also from military backgrounds as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Really transition well into those types of roles.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Totally.
So what kind of drove the decision to kind of stop playing basketball? Was it kind of just the right time, or injury, or what was kind of made you kind of stop?
Yeah, it was a bit of a culmination of things. I think it was one of those stars aligning kind of moments. I had just finished my master's. I was set to get married, so retirement commenced in May. I had graduated just a couple of months before that from my master's program, and then I was set to get married at the end of July. So
okay.
And then obviously my body's not getting any younger. As I mentioned, I've been playing since I was 5, so that's 25 hard miles on the body, which maybe I should have listened to my dad's advice a little bit more and not played for 3 teams at a time and had like 9 games on the weekend, because I was a lot chubbier than I am now. I mean, I still got a little baby fat on me, but back then I was pushing probably like 280, 290. So running up and down for 9 games a weekend on a young body, that's gonna add up the miles maybe faster than it would for, I don't know, someone Cavell's size.
That's a bit of a comparison now, isn't it?
Yeah. He's got a little bit more spring in his step than I do, clearly.
I mean, obviously, you mentioned there going into retirement. Obviously, you said you felt a little bit lost of what to do, and obviously you're still playing basketball at sort of with your friends and stuff. And then I think came the famous Michael Darlow DM that we always hear about. I think there's a rumor going around that you've not made it in basketball until Darlow's messaged you. So how did that come about when you kind of got introduced to maybe coming out of retirement and with us?
Yeah. So it was pretty random. I didn't really have a heads up from anywhere. It was just a message. Hey, this is Mike Darlow from Hemel Storm. Interested for a chat. And I guess the way that I figured is I'm playing basketball 2 days a week anyways right now. In fact, I'm paying to play basketball 2 days a week now. Might as well play 3 days a week and get paid for it. It was kind of my mindset. But it obviously, yeah, but it obviously grew into more than that, as it does like when you're playing in such a great community like Hemel. You start by seeing the dollar signs and you finish by making connections with the people that are supporting you and surrounding you the entire way. So what started as, oh, okay, I'll do this for a couple months, like just to make ends meet. Then you start, meeting the teammates, meeting the fans, and creating these bonds, and all of a sudden you're part of the family. And yeah, I guess I've enjoyed every minute of it, and now I'm in the thick of it.
How did it feel like?
One game to go.
Sorry, Mike.
No, go on.
How did it feel kind of coming out of retirement? And I know you weren't retired for very long, but in terms of getting back to fitness and when you decided to do it, did you think that you'd have as many games and as many minutes as you've had? Obviously with Hakeem and then Braden getting injured as well. Obviously there's a lot more kind of focus on needing to use you as the big man, so you're probably playing more than maybe you might have done if those guys were fit.
Well, I'll start by saying I did not realize how out of shape I was until I had to start playing for real again. Because, oh man, those first couple practices, I was sucking wind. It was tough. You think you're in decent shape playing, a couple nights of pickup a week, and then you go play real basketball again, and you realize quite quickly that you are not in good shape. But the good news is I think I've hit my stride now, and I'm feeling a lot better in the legs. And I guess you kind of take it for granted. When I was doing it, full time professionally, it was just the lifestyle. It was the way that you operated even during the off season. It's not truly an off season. Maybe you take 2 or 3 weeks off, but you're still jogging, running, doing sprints in the weight room, getting shots up and stuff like that. Just more recreationally and more sporadically. And then you step out of it and it goes really quickly. But yeah, did a great job of just getting back in shape, getting my touch back. I know that I was getting frustrated a little bit because when you're practicing once or even twice a day, sometimes in the professional sphere, it's almost second nature and automatic. And then when you take a pretty long hiatus and then come back and you're only practicing 2 days a week, your touch doesn't feel exactly right. You're not reading situations as quickly as you used to. So it does take a little bit of adjusting. And now I think well, thankfully, right at the right time, I'm finding that again.
What was it then about the text from Michael Darlow that kind of made you sort of, other than obviously you said you're already playing a couple of times a week and you could go do the same thing and earn a bit of money, but was there something specific about what you knew about Storm? Had you worked with Mark Clark before, or what was the reasoning that kind of made you sort of go, actually, that's of interest?
Yeah, so I guess I didn't really know too much. I mean, the only thing I knew is that Hemel had dominated last year. And that was all I really knew, to be completely honest with you. I didn't know much about the coaching staff. I didn't know much about the organization. Just being honest. And I found out quickly through a series of phone calls that there was one bullet point that every person I spoke to mentioned. So I spoke to Darlow first, then I spoke to Mark on the phone, then I spoke to JB, I believe, and then I think it was Tony quickly following that. And each one of them said, we look for high character individuals who are just as good on the court as they are off the court. And we try and promote a family environment, not only family in the sense of you can bring your kids to the game, but a family in the sense of we're all going to joke around. We all are maybe too involved in each other's personal lives, and also all, you know, able to get along and create an environment that's gonna promote Hemel basketball and keep it in a good light. And you know, when you hear one person say it, you can sit there and think, okay, yeah, like you have to say that. And then you hear the second person say it, and you're like, okay, well, maybe it's true. We'll see. Then the third and fourth person say it, and you're like, okay, do you guys have like a script or something, or do you guys actually care about this? And I think it was pretty clear quickly, to me at least, that no, they meant every word of it, and they were trying to formulate a team that, you know, upholds the ideals of the community that they're trying to, you know, better and support.
Yeah,
I think
it comes
it's
across
probably
off the outside of the organisation to the fans a huge amount. I think it's one of the standout things is how it's always felt like family, how the players and fans are really closely connected, and the organisation are just fantastic, and you know, they look after people really well.
No, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And that's truly what I think separates, you know, clubs that have success. I've been on teams or played in cities where, you know, most of the people in the city don't even know that there's a basketball team there. And to come to an environment where it's very clear, abundantly clear when you're stepping onto that court that, like, I don't know how big Hemel is, but let's say a quarter of the city is you coming out to hang out in the stands, and that's a great feeling.
I mean, I might be wrong here, but I think your first game was Seth's last game, wasn't it? So,
Yeah.
yeah. So to have all these people tell you about how special the fans were and the family feel with it, and then your first game be the send off that everyone gave Seth, and the kind of environment that night must have kind of reaffirmed it straight away as well for you.
Yeah, 100%. No, I couldn't have said it better myself. Really, that's that was like one of those moments where you see something like that. Like, again, a bunch of people can tell you something, but until you experience it for yourself, you don't necessarily give it too much merit. But when I saw the mustache cutouts and, you know, the kids swarming him after the game, and all of the love and support that was going out to him via social media and verbally as well, in person, it was really special. And especially, I know it sounds maybe shallow, but a lot of the times when players do leave clubs, it can harbor some resentment from some of the fans, and to see that all the fans were so supportive and wishing him truly the best, and you could tell that they really meant it. That was really awesome. So they wanted him to progress his career and become the best version of a basketball player that he can, and he fits in way better in Tasmania with his mullet and mustache anyways. So it was right on a variety of different levels.
We failed there with the fake mustaches. We should have had cardboard cutouts of his head.
Yeah.
So we'll know that for next time when someone's moving on.
Yeah.
I'm sure they couldn't recruit him until it got to a certain length. I'm pretty sure that was holding them back. But
yeah, they sent him the DocuSign, but it couldn't be unlocked until the facial recognition like saw a certain mullet length.
Yeah. No, that was a great night, though. I mean, you know, it was sad to see him go, but as you say, everyone was just so happy to see. He'd given so much, and he'd stepped up so much when Aaron and Taylor left as well. You know, he'd been a real linchpin, and just brilliant outside. Again, all the community coaching and everything. He's always around, always happy. You know, to talk to anyone, and yeah, so everyone was really happy for him. I think quite a few of us are still trying to watch some of his games because they're like 9 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Yeah, he's no, he was a great guy. Honestly, I wish I could have had more time to play with him, because he was always good energy. Always, you know, and he had a good basketball brain on him too. And so, like, that always makes it a lot of fun to play with somebody when you can, you know, read them, and you feel like you have this like synchronity pretty easily. You don't always develop it with everybody. Some people it takes a little bit longer. Some people it's almost instantaneous. And me and Seth got each other.
Hey, you there?
You're back.
We just had a little Wi-Fi issue. Darren, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm good here.
Yeah, good man. Awesome. So, how have you found the NBL then since you came back? What's your thoughts on NBL compared to BBL, that type of thing?
Yeah, it's a good level. I mean, it's one of those where you can see that there's a lot of guys who are capable of playing at that next level, you know, and it's just it's a good stepping stone for a lot of these guys, and it's also a good platform to engage with you know, some of the veterans. I see some of the guys who I played with in the BBL for a while, you know. I played with Raheem and Corey of Derby, played
Yeah.
against Rob Marsden, played against a couple of guys who I'm probably forgetting around the league, but it's always good to have a little bit of veteran leadership for some of the younger guys coming up. I tell a lot of people who ask me how I'm finding it, just how rewarding it is to work with some of the younger guys on the team here. So trying to impart as much wisdom as I can, you know, without being the nagging old fella who's getting on your case for not being in the right spot at the right time. It's like, I'm too old. I can't get there. You have to get there. You have to be smart.
Who's that? Who do you pick on for that, Darren? Who do you get to do your running?
Oh no, I don't discriminate. I don't discriminate. Whoever's closest. But it is fun because you know, you put in work to a certain field for a prolonged amount of time, no matter what it is. You want to be able to pass that wisdom on to somebody else. So if and when I see something that could help improve somebody's game, I try and take it upon myself to speak up. You know, Mark does a great job of it too. Mark's coached at an insanely high level, but it's like that teacher in the classroom that's telling you to study, like they're right. But if one of your peers, one of your students tell you to study because you think this is going to be on the exam, I think you're more likely to listen to it sometimes than if the teacher's on your case. So I just try and be that as often as I can for these guys. And I'm not always right. That's the beauty of basketball. It's a subjective game. But there are some instances where pretty sure I'm right. So I'll try and pass that along as and when I can, you know.
Yeah.
Nice. How did you obviously, build up to from your first game with the atmosphere of Seth leaving and everything to, I think personally for me, one of the best atmospheres I've ever seen, atmospheres in the Storm Dome this Saturday. How was that, this playing against Bradford this weekend,
Oh,
in
that was
terms of the
pretty,
noise and
yeah, that was pretty legendary. It was great, you know. It's my classic line, you know, after the game. Oh, that was exciting. Why'd you guys let it get so close? And I just like, yeah, we got to keep it interesting, you know. We got to keep the fans coming back. If we just blow every team out, you know, it'll get boring eventually. So, but no, honestly, really, really amazing atmosphere in the arena, and it was really touching actually. I can't remember which profile posted it, but it was a observational clip of the stands that are facing away from that our bench is facing, and they're taking a video during my free throws and just
that was
seeing
me.
the
That was our account.
was
Yeah.
it? Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just seeing the emotion, you know, from the fans when that final free throw was sank. It was really touching, you know. I watched it and I didn't cry, but I got a little teary-eyed. I got because it is cool. There's one guy in the front, you know, he can't watch, and then whoever is sitting to the side of him kind of like taps him, and then he's like fist pumping because he was like too high stress. And it just reminds me, we had a fan back in Leicester. It's a mother-daughter combo, Rachel and Teresa, absolute diehard fans. Every away game, every home game, bringing us snacks to take on the bus. Legendary duo. And the mother, she also couldn't watch during like the high stress moments. She would like hide her head in her blanket and wait for somebody to tell her the results. So it just brought back some fond memories of, you know, the kind of impact. And although it is stressful, when it goes in your favor, it's one of the most elating moments that you can have.
That's good. I mean, did you we put out on our social media about asking any questions for you, and we got a question from someone that sits in that stand, and they said, "How was your mindset 22 seconds left. We're down by 1 point. You've got 2 free throws. How was that for you mentally? Did you blank everything out and just go through normal muscle memory routine, or was there a bit of pressure applied to it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't pressure, but it's pressure that I've been under before, that I'm comfortable living within. And you step up to that line and you look at the hoop and you tell yourself, how many free throws have I shot in my life? Probably over 1 million, if I had to guess. That sounds like a high number, but 25 years, like probably 100 free throws roughly every practice. I'm no mathematician, but I don't know. Maybe adds up. I'm not sure. I'm not
It's
sure.
a big enough number to,
Maybe I'm a couple 100,000 short of 1 million, but like for the sake of argument, let's say 1 million. And you just think you've done this a bunch of times. The muscle memory, what's at stake, and if you don't pull it off, that doesn't define you as a person. But if you do pull it off, it's gonna feel really good. So you just try and lock in and trust your body, trust your mind, and it panned out. Plus, I knew that the law of averages were on my side because I missed 2 free throws just before that. So if I'm above a career 50% free throw shooter, then surely these 2 are gonna go in, right?
I love that.
I can tell you so far this season, you're shooting 76% from free throw for Hemel. So there you go. The odds were in your favor.
There we go. Exactly. So it's just a numbers game, really.
One of the other questions we got from Instagram, sort of similar to what we've just been talking about, someone asked specifically about what's it like playing at the Storm Dome once the badminton courts have been cleared. So how do you not get confused by the lines? And then also, as fans, we always think that we've probably got the best or the most noisiest kind of, and it's not an arena, it's a gym, isn't it? In the NBL. How do you think that helps the players as well? And when you've been to some of the away venues in the NBL, how have you compared to Storm Dome to like, I don't know, Reading or Derby or wherever?
Yeah, well, I can absolutely say that the fan impact is a massive influence. I mean, you can see it just about anywhere in sport, that home court, home field, home turf advantage, whatever you want to refer to it as. That's a real tangible thing that everyone experiences. And when you're lucky enough to have fans that show up in numbers and decibels like the Storm Dome fans do, you're in the right place, and it gives you something to work towards and something to achieve, and it's I don't want to call it pressure. That maybe isn't the right word, but I would say it is something to hold you accountable. If there's 5 people twiddling their thumbs in the stands, you don't really feel that bad about losing. But if like a bunch of people devote their evening to making as much noise as possible for 2 hours and you go out and lay an egg, you're gonna feel kind of guilty about that. So it's definitely something that riles us up and it keeps us engaged. And when we go on a run and we can pump our fist and like do the Russell Crowe gladiator performance out there, and it actually gets a reaction, that's pretty cool.
And how do you differentiate between all the lines on the court and which ones you're meant to be using for basketball?
I don't know if I've still figured that out yet. I still have to look down at my feet to see which 3-point line I'm supposed to be shooting from. No, but it's I mean, I'll just put it down to mechanics and just time in perfecting my craft. I try at least to know where I am on the court at all times, and the badminton lines don't throw me off too bad. Would I rather play on a clean-cut hardwood floor? Yes, maybe. But does it ultimately impact my game? Not so much, no.
Well, you get a nice, clean, clear-cut floor on Sunday, mate. So you'll enjoy that one.
There we go. I have to show up now, otherwise I'm gonna look stupid.
No stepping out of bounds. I know we're going to talk about the final in a minute, but the game before, the Loughborough game, obviously, is Loughborough quite close to you, considering the Leicester, your NBA. I guess that because I noticed there was a kind of maybe you knew some of the players, or there was some connection there. How was it playing that game against those guys?
Yeah, totally. So we would have some of the younger guys, especially the guys from like Charnwood, who would play D1 for Loughborough or maybe even Bucks for Loughborough. Sometimes they'd come down to Riders practices to like help us fill out numbers, or even just, if there's a promising younger guy, like just get him exposed to playing at the highest level possible, playing against, grown men as opposed to other peers and kids his age. That's always going to accelerate your, your skill set. And then, so I knew some of the younger guys. So I knew like Victor Nduku, and like he was there at Riders when I was there, but also like Harrison Gamble. He wasn't playing full time with Riders when I got there, but he had just stepped away from Riders and just started doing part-time Loughborough stuff. But he would come down and practice
for a while in England, Harrison. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So he was around. He'd come down to practice every once in a while with us as well. And I wish I would have known that was his last game in a Loughborough Riders uniform, because I was like, I don't know, just talking my stuff to him on the free throw line, like completely unaware that it was his retirement game. So unfortunately, it was us who had to put him out, but definitely no love lost between the two of us. I shot him a message after I found out, and he said, thanks. Anytime you're up in Leicester, just give me a shout. And yeah, awesome career he's had. And then like Justin Headley, for example, he's one of my best friends, like from my days with Riders. He's from Munich originally, so him and my wife Greta can speak German, and I'll understand half of it, and they'll probably call me a big idiot or something like that. I don't know. That one I could probably catch, but something more nuanced maybe would go over my head. But it's always been fun to stay in touch with those guys because they were a big part of my life for a while. But it's even more fun to, go out there and beat up on them for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike, I think you had some more questions from the socials, didn't you?
Yeah, there was a couple more. I think obviously we've noticed a few times a bit of frustration, but in a calm way towards some decisions that don't go our way. I think I spoke to you after a game before about that. Have you found that the difference in how referees are between BBL and NBL, or maybe the physicality of not getting away with as much as you do in the BBL, or just because I suppose in the NBL we're not used to someone of your size? You think, is that impacted a little bit, do you think? Or
yeah, I mean, I think it definitely plays a factor. I really do. Maybe it doesn't seem like it always, but I do try to stay in a good headspace with the referees, especially on stuff that I can't control. All I can control is playing my best version of basketball. That doesn't make it any less frustrating when I feel like I do something correct or not bad, and I get punished for it. But that's more of a me issue. I need to just accept what I can control and let them get on with it. I also am completely and fully aware of how hard it is to be a referee in any sport, in any league, anywhere. You're never going to make everyone happy. Everyone's going to always have something to say. You got to have really, really thick skin to be any type of referee or umpire in sport. And I just hope I don't drive them too crazy because we couldn't be able to play the game without them. And I do acknowledge that, but that doesn't make me any less frustrated when I get my fourth foul with 6 minutes left and I'm not able to stay on the court. But yeah, I mean, it's a different game. It's a different level, different expectation. And I mean, I've been frustrated many times in different countries with different things, and it's something that I can't change, and I gotta probably do a better job of being as animated as I am sometimes.
Well, whatever you were doing for the semi-final, you definitely kind of managed the foul count like really well in that game. I think the whole team did. It was a very disciplined sort of defensive performance. There didn't seem to be any kind of silly fouls given away, and kind of shared it out really well. I think you were on like none at half time, I think, or something like that. So it was like
Yeah, well, I know two of those guys. Two of those guys, pop back and forth between BBL and NBL, I believe. So, it's good. It's good when you have a rapport with the referees sometimes because I mean, at least back in my Leicester days, generally the captain is supposed to be the diplomat or the intermediary between the players and the officials. So, I have a pretty good. I don't want to say a good reputation, but at least a good relationship with those two in particular. So, if I saw something or if something was had a question mark next to it, I felt like I could go up to them and talk about it. Whereas I don't really have that relationship with some of the refs that I've run into across NBL so far. So, just being able to have those conversations and make my point and talk it out sometimes can lead to a level of understanding that you can frame the rest of your game around. Whereas I don't really know the styles of some of the other referees, so maybe I'm expressing myself in, again, too animated of a way or too sarcastic or too blunt maybe. Maybe I needed to speak to them with more finesse in some situations. So being able to read the person, know their tendencies, know what they'd respond to is something that I'm still working on. But I'm lucky that we had those two guys because I had a leg up in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
It's not too bad. It's an ongoing process. That's
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always think, as fans, we moan about every decision that isn't for us, right? So, right. I don't think we're really we're ones to judge anyone for having a chat with a referee, because I think we're constantly doing it through the whole game. But every decision, even the obvious ones,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You gotta have thick skin if you're gonna be a referee. So
Yeah,
I never want to take too much credit away from them because I could never do what they're doing. Too much of a people pleaser.
Well, thank God there's people that do it though as well, right? It's
yeah.
Any other questions from the socials, Mike?
No, I think the rest ones we had from socials were some of the ones we always ask towards the end anyway. So we'll save that little movie gem towards the end.
nice.
What have been kind of your favourite moments or any memorable games, a bit like Saturday in a Storm jersey to date? Obviously, Sunday's going to eclipse it all when we win the playoffs, but up to now, what is it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're all looking forward to that. I mean, honestly, Saturday night was an absolute blast. I thought we were playing some really good basketball, especially like in the early stages of the game. And then I know that once things get on a little bit towards the end, tension starts rising, lead starts slipping, and you have to kind of just make those game-winning plays to tip the scale in your favor. It was a little anticlimactic, but it was also very, very exciting. But obviously, if we're talking about like huge moment climaxes, I'd have to say that Derby game at home, with the game winner by Veron to finish out the clock. That was pretty unreal, and I'm really happy for V that he got to experience that. Haven't had a ton of game winners in my day. It's usually not in the hands of the center to do. It's usually a guard, but I have had a few, and there's truly no better feeling. So I was really, really hyped for him, and obviously hyped for Hemel as an organization to knock off Derby off their pedestal. They had an amazing season up until this past Saturday. And so I'm glad that we got to be at least one of the teams that kind of dampened their fire at a certain stage.
I like the fact that your two most memorable games are the ones where you're causing all the fans to have massively elevated blood pressure.
Yeah, of course. That's why we love sports, right? That's why I said we got to keep things interesting.
The Derby game was special, though. I think you've done yourself a bit of a disservice, though, because you're a good 3-point shooter, so you could take over from some of the guards in a who's taking the last shot.
Yeah. Hey, one of these days, if we need a game winner on Sunday, then I'll have Mark draw me up a 3-pointer, and we'll let the cards fall where they may.
I was going to say, I was surprised. There has been a couple of times this season where you've quite deep in the court and you've landed the three as well. And I think it takes everyone by surprise even now. And we've seen it a few times that notoriously big men can't finish from that distance, but you seem to still have that ability.
Yeah, I got to keep it in the back pocket. I can't make it too obvious, you know. I just got to save it for a couple of special occasions here or there.
Just halfway line on Sunday then.
Yeah, when they're least expecting it.
Brilliant. I mean, how you obviously, you know, you've mentioned the final briefly there, talking about Sunday. Obviously, I think when we speak to fans, I think one of the best games we've seen from you so far is away at Reading. I think you single-handedly controlled that game. How are you feeling about playing them again? Is there a thought process going through that? Yeah, and obviously you'll have your first training session tomorrow and the prep, but is there, after playing a game like that against them, is there anything you can build on confidence-wise going into that again?
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of playing sports where you're only judged by your last performance, and then going into your current performance. Obviously, you take little granular shots of different points across the season. I joined the team late, so I think the only team I played against twice was Essex. Which obviously that second game didn't really go in our favor. So, as far as I'm concerned, I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder to prove something about that. In terms of, what kind of mental preparations going on with Reading specifically, it was expecting different looks probably. They guarded me in single coverage pretty much the whole game with like very little help. And I doubt that, if they take me seriously, that they're gonna leave whoever that guy is, I don't know his name, in single coverage the whole game. And if they do, then even better for me, because I'm pretty confident, as I've demonstrated, that I can handle him pretty easily. So just staying conscious of the fact that doubles might come, they might mix up coverages, and that just because they were a 4 seed and they finished below us in the table, I mean, you saw the run that Bradford gave us. We've lost to teams that were seeded worse than 4. So that's nothing to hang our hats on. There's definitely some tricks up Reading's sleeve. They didn't make it this far for no reason. They have merit. They have skill. So yeah, just being prepared for anything they throw at us.
We lost the Reading at home earlier in the season, didn't we?
Yeah. Sorry, Rob. Yeah, did a good job against Essex.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. They've had some pretty big wins, which they beat Derby during the regular season. They beat us before I got I got here in the regular season. And then obviously they beat Derby in the playoffs. They beat Essex at one. Did they beat Essex at one point as well?
No, I meant Derby.
Okay.
It was interesting as well that in the playoff quarter final, Forth played fifth, Reading Newcastle, and Reading absolutely demolished them, didn't they? And that is the playoff game that you would expect to be the closest because of how close they finished in the league. So Reading it's often the informed teams that do really well in playoffs. It could be football, could be rugby, it doesn't have to be basketball. It happens in all sports. But so Reading are, they're going to be buzzing from beating Derby. We're buzzing from like a last few seconds win against Bradford. So it's going to be a really tough game on Sunday.
Yeah, no, don't forget as well, they lost the National Cup final in January at Manchester, so they're going to want to try and exercise that demon, aren't they? Whereas we're trying to go for the repeat. So it's there's you can find bits in every aspect you look, can't you?
No, 100%. Yeah. And again, I've probably said it 5 times and I'll say it for a 6th. That's what we love about sports, right? Is all these small variables that add up into one, 40-minute moment that, can potentially cement you in a period of history.
Yeah.
And we're chuffed that it's our 4th year in a row with getting to the playoff final, aren't we? So the first of those we missed because it was COVID year, so it was all watching on YouTube, which was a bit weird. But year after that we lost to Solent, didn't we? We got back in it quite well later on, and then they did us at the end. And then obviously last year, as you're aware of, Darien, we went on that tremendous run, and everyone was hoping to beat us. So it was nice to actually come away with the playoffs as well.
Yeah, looking forward to another one then. Let's get it.
Absolutely, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. It'll be a great occasion. It's a fantastic venue as well, actually.
It is. It's a really nice venue. It's trying to remember it. My first year playing against Manchester, they weren't in that arena, and then they moved into it, I think, in my second season, I believe. And yeah, had a couple good games out there. And really enjoy it.
Bit less of a journey from Leicester as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. shorter journey, and hopefully similar results, because we had some. I don't want to jinx it, so I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
But we had a lot of good, but we had a lot of good games up there.
Excellent.
Any more questions from you guys?
No, I think we just got to get to the final one that we always ask every guest at the end, I think, don't we? See where we're at movie wise.
Yeah, this is one we've asked everyone, and nearly all of the people that have been on the podcast have said the same film. What's your favorite basketball movie?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I am split between 3.
What are those 3?
And
you can give us a top 3.
You can give us those.
I can
3.
give a top 3. Okay,
yeah.
nice. Because I'm not exactly sure. So I would say Coach Carter, Love and Basketball. Sorry, not Love and Basketball. It's a good basketball movie, but that's not in my top 3. Strike that from the record, please.
We'll edit that bit out, don't
worry. So it's Coach Carter, He Got Game, and White Men Can't Jump.
The original.
Yeah, the original.
Yeah. Everyone says Coach Carter. I think only maybe one person didn't say Coach Carter out of all that. How many guests have we had on over the last 2 years? 8, 9?
That's true,
yeah. And they've pretty much all said Coach Carter.
Yeah, Coach Carter's
a great movie. It's a great movie.
It's a great
flick. He Got Game is special to me just because it was Ray Allen in it, and he played for the Sonics for a long time. It's like when he's trying to, and it's Denzel Washington too. I mean,
yeah,
come on, that's a pretty good. It's a pretty good.
He doesn't make a bad film, does he?
No, he doesn't. And but Ray Allen trying to make his foray into acting, probably best that he stayed away from it. But it's the basketball element that I'm here for, not necessarily the acting from.
What did you think of Hustle?
I thought Hustle was pretty good. I mean, I like it. Adam Sandler. I grew up on the funny Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah.
So Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison, Mr. Deeds, like all of those ones. So seeing him in a bit more serious role, but with a basketball element. I mean, I know how much he loves hoops. He's been spotted around London recently on a couple local courts. So it's cool to see him doing his passion projects, I suppose.
He's a massive basketball fan, isn't he?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all right. There's often little basketball snippets in some of his other films as well. He's just a massive fan of the sport, isn't he?
Yeah, totally. He's I think Anthony Edwards also did a pretty good job in Hustle as well, like being the villain guy.
He was
really good.
It's good to see him flourishing as well in the league now, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Oh man, yeah. So one of the guys I played with at Penn, he played overseas for quite a while, but he retired a couple years back and started working for Adidas, and now he's like the head of the marketing campaign for Anthony Edwards shoe line.
Oh wow!
So I get to see like behind the scenes shots of like all of their filming shoots and all of their ad campaigns and everything like that, and so I feel really like up to date with all of that for whatever reason, just because I'm kind of invested in it. So it's been cool to see the progression and like how him improving as a player, it increases his notoriety and all the marketing that goes behind that and what made him the athlete he is today. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. He's it was great seeing him up against KD the other day.
Yeah.
They were going at it, weren't they? It was like in a great way. It's his hero, right? So
Love it. Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
Love it.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else, Mike? Were you going to mention Friday?
Yeah, I'll say we've got the big awards night coming up Friday as well. Obviously, hoping to get as many fans down there as we can. And obviously, yeah, going into Sunday. So, is there any messages from yourself for the fans building up to this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, first step is our training sessions this week, Tuesday, Thursday, we're going to be locking in, but Friday is going to be a good chance to get our heads together with the fans and the rest of the organization, and really realize what we do it for, and that's you guys. So having you out on Friday is going to be massive, and then even more massive is going to be having you guys out there on Sunday with us and cheering us on and creating the environment that you guys as fans are notorious for bringing to the Storm Dome, and what we're expecting in droves on Sunday. So excited to see you at both, and just so very appreciative of the support and noise that you bring to every occasion.
Yeah, Darren, thank you.
Brilliant.
You bet, guys. Appreciate y'all having me on. It's been a pleasure.
It's great having you on, Darien. Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much, Darren. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Darren. Thank you.
You bet, guys. Take care. Have a good evening.